We are back, baby. It is the second half of this Major League Baseball regular season. Again, it bears repeating, past the midway point for sure. All 30 clubs playing at least 95 games of their 162 throughout the regular season. But after the All-Star break, our first Friday full slate, our first day of action since Sunday afternoon. We start late night in Los Angeles at the Ravine. A really good matchup this weekend in L.A. between the Dodgers and the Boston Red Sox. L.A. struggling entering the break, losing 8 of their last 11. The Red Sox on the opposite end of that equation. Boston now 11 games above 500, 53 and 42. They sit with the third and final AL wildcard spot entering this home stretch. Gavin Stone has actually been one of the better starters, DRS, for the Dodgers this year in the mishmash of that starting rotation due to all the injuries. And because of it, LA a home favorite tonight. But should the Dodgers be considered the favorite at home? By the way, those numbers updated in a big way. The Dodgers now minus 122 on the money line.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be, to be honest, because also you get asked this question so many times over the years. Like some of the better, or should I say harder betting strategies is coming out of the All-Star break. And sometimes it's not fair because these guys are professional athletes. Some of them are going to get away and blow off steam, yes, but it's not as if they're going to come back, 15 pounds overweight and never seen a baseball before. It's not as if they're going to be seeing first live pitching for the first time in 3 weeks. It's basically only been 5 to 6 days total that they've been off. But having said that, if you want to come into the break as the Dodgers, boy, you needed it, and you're coming back with Gavin Stone. It's not as if you're coming back with like your ace on the mound that's going to be a guaranteed stopper. And the same thing with Nick Pivetta. You're putting both of these pitchers really in that same boat. You take a look at both of these lineups, and if we're just going based on statistics over the past month, the Dodgers weren't that great. Ohtani, Smith, and Freeman, yes, they have very good numbers against right-handed pitching, but the rest of that lineup outside of Chris Taylor, a lot to be desired. You take a look at that Boston lineup going against right-handed pitching, much more palatable. Duran, Hamilton, Yoshida, Devers, O'Neill, Abreu, Smith, all high weighted on base percentages against right-handed pitching. So I like the fact that we posted that graphic and saw that big change there by about 20 cents. And I agree with that here. If we're taking a look at both of these teams, I think it's a pretty much an even matchup coming out of the break. Therefore, I would just lean on taking the dog side, which is the Boston Red Sox.
Boston victorious in 10 of its final 13 before the All-Star break. Again, injuries have been the story for L.A. When might those reinforcements be there? Tyler Glasnow, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the other veteran starters that we know for this L.A. side, like Clayton Kershaw. And, of course, when does Mookie Betts return? At least not tonight. The Dodgers have been a favorite in virtually, I believe it is now, they played 97 games in 89 of the 97 in the first half. A favorite tonight, ever so slightly at this moment, against the Sox. Best team in the American League, that's still the Cleveland Guardians, despite losing 5 of their final 7 entering the All-Star break. 58 and 37 for the Guardians, a half game in front of Baltimore for that best mark in the AL. Cleveland at home today, minus 144 to start this second half against the San Diego Padres. Total is 7 and a hook. What do you like in the land?
Yeah, by the way, both of these pitchers are decent here. Now, some of the analytical numbers are showing better than their ERA. Talking about Waldron here of the San Diego Padres. We'll get to him in a second. But the home team's going to have Bybee on the mound. And quite frankly, a decent pitcher all the way through. ISO power number, slightly elevated, weighted on base percentage about average. He does get touched up a bit by left-handed batters. If you're taking a look at the lineup tonight, Arise will be a lefty, Profar, Cronenworth, Merrill, and also Peralta. So you have a decent mix of guys in that lineup that have done fairly well against right-handed pitching over the last month. You flip it over to the other side and say, what's Waldron going to bring to the equation? I told you, ERA is a little bit high on the road, but his xFIP number certainly is manageable. If we're looking at just what happened over the past month in that last 125 batters, it looks like he can be got to. An ISO power number of 211 combined and a weighted on base percentage, which is average at 324. Now, Waldron is a right-handed pitcher. He doesn't struggle, per se, with left-handed batters, at least over the past 30 days, but he has struggled with right-handed batters to the tune of a 256 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 437. So to be honest, here's what we're doing in this lineup. There's a lot of lefties out there, and rightfully so. Typically, right-handed pitcher, if you have the ability through switch hitters and left-handed batters, you want to overpower that side of the plate. But to be honest, you really can attack Waldron from the right side as opposed to the left side. So you might be thinking to yourself, 2 decent lineups here coming in post All-Star break is 7.5. I'd probably go over. This game for me is actually leaning towards more of an under than an over here.
Some lower totals today, Donnie. I think across the board because of the idea, hey, got to shake off the rust after nearly a week off.
Rested
7.5,
pitchers.
this number for what we could see in a decent amount of offense. But I agree with your thought there. The Guardians, by the way, one of the better home teams in baseball, but have only played 41 home games, 30-11. The record for Cleveland in Cleveland, 28-26 on the road. That's 54 games. So of their 95 so far, 54 have been on the road. That means a ton of home games for the Guardians in this second half to try to hold on to that 4.5 game advantage atop the American League Central. Now we go to Atlanta. The Braves playing host to the St. Louis Cardinals. Atlanta a slight favorite at home with Spencer Schwellenbach on the bump. -120, a total of 7.5 here. Atlanta, the most unders at the break, the only team with more than a 60% under percentage in all of baseball in the opening half, 62.2 to be exact. What do you expect tonight in the ATL between the Cardinals and the Braves?
I think Schwellenbach has certainly turned that corner of, oh my goodness, I'm in Major League Baseball, I'm struggling early on, I better turn it around. He's been a decent pitcher as of late, and as of late means, over the past 2 to 3 weeks, as he hasn't been up in the major leagues all that long. But if we're taking a look at the approach, it's the old school versus the new school. And the reason I bring that is not Sonny Gray versus Schwellenbach. It's actually the statistics that you look at and what you're going to trust in this game. Hear me out on this. Sonny Gray on the season, if we take a look at, forget about his splits home and away. He's actually the third pitcher on the card today with an xFIP minus of 73 over the past 60 days and a 3.55 ERA mixed in with an xFIP of 2.92. That is phenomenal. That is as good as it gets. Now let's take a look here at what we say on the road sweeps. He's number 2 here. If we're looking overall, that's 40 2/3 innings pitched here, which is a pretty good amount of time. His ERA, Ben, 5.09. That's horrendous. His xFIP, 2.97. So if you're just looking at Sonny Gray's numbers on the road and say he's got a 5 ERA, just sign me up on the Braves. You need to be looking into those numbers a little bit deeply because a lot of times you're getting a little bit unlucky in that situation when he's been a quality pitcher over the past 60 days and his xFIP number is extremely low. But also, doesn't that play into the Atlanta Braves of what they want to do? Hey, good pitcher on the other side. Schwellenbach comes in, post All-Star break, pitchers are rested here. It probably lends to a recipe of more of an under. But having said that, Atlanta's at home. All they do is basically win and win in close games. I do think that is a cheap price, even though the better pitcher is on Sonny Gray's side. Lean number 1 in this game to the under. Lean number 2 is you're getting the Braves at home at a pretty cheap price. Why don't we just roll that direction?
These are the top 2 teams in the National League wildcard standings at the moment. Atlanta, a 3.5 game advantage over St. Louis for the top spot. An interesting weekend now as playoff positioning is firmly in focus following the All-Star break. The Cardinals, Mets, 2 and 3 in the wildcard standings. The Mets in front of the D-backs and the Padres by a game, and the Pittsburgh Pirates by a game and a half. Those 5 teams battling for the final 3 spots in the National League wildcard race, separated by only 2 games among 5 teams. Speaking of the Buccos, they get ready to host baseball's best this weekend in an in-state showdown in the Commonwealth at PNC Park. The Pirates and the Phillies. Aaron Nola gets the start today for Philadelphia, booked as a hefty road favorite, -166, that updated number on the money line.
They probably should be that favorite, but also keep in mind, once again, you're taking a look at these splits and which one matters more to you. Over the past 60 days for Martin Perez, he's got a 113 xFIP minus, which is above average. An ERA, close to 5.80, which is terrible. An xFIP number, 4.58, that's in the danger zone. But again, you're taking a look at those total starts. You have a true pitching advantage when you're at home in Pittsburgh, one of the better pitchers' ballparks in Major League Baseball. His numbers are significantly better. But you also have a rested Aaron Nola. We're going pedigree for pedigree here on pitchers. It's going to be the Phillies. Line up side by side, it's going to be the Phillies. So I do think the Phillies have a manageable price there around that -160. And you better pick up victories because sooner than later, I'm going to say in the series, you're going to face Paul Skeens. Pick up this victory with Nola tonight and move on.
Plenty more MLB breakdowns coming your way up next. The first day of MLB regular season action following the All-Star break starts very early on this Friday. Some day baseball inside the friendly confines. Now that's a summer tradition in Chicago. To Wrigley Field we go. The Cubbies a home favorite today with Justin Steele on the bump against the Arizona Diamondbacks, -164 that number. The over-under is 8. Chicago playing better baseball into the break. The sweep last week in Baltimore over the O's, as is Arizona, winners of 8 of their last 12, the reigning National League pennant winners. Two teams playing better. Who gets the win to start the second half after the All-Star break today in Wrigley?
Yeah, it is a big week for both of these teams, too. Buyers or sellers at the deadline. We'll find out if that makes sense. But if we're just looking at the starting pitch-up matchup here, the Chicago Cubs, certainly for me, have the better pitcher in Justin Steele. You take a look at his last 30 days overall, 109 batters that he's faced, a 104 ISO, and a weighted on-base percentage of 206. On the season, it's a 125 ISO and a 253 weighted on-base percentage. Those are phenomenal numbers. And also sometimes you're pitching at Wrigley Field. Those numbers could get inflated. You take a look at his ERA this season through 37 and a third innings pitched at Wrigley, 3.13, which has an xFIP of 3.89. That's very good. Ryan Nelson on the other side has actually had some better numbers ERA-wise than he does those anticipated numbers, let's just say analytically, of the xFIP and the xFIP minuses. He does have some elevated full season numbers, but it's been a better pitcher over the past 30 days. However, if we're gauging lineup per lineup, take the pitchers out of the equation, which I told you the Cubs have the better one. The Cubs actually present themselves better today than the Diamondbacks do. Ryan Nelson's a right-handed pitcher. You got the first 5 guys he anticipated in that lineup: Horner, Bush, Suzuki, Happ, and Morrell as those guys, or Morrell as those guys that have high weighted on base percentages against right-handed pitching. I think the Cubs are the right side today. I do.
I think it's fair to say this game tonight in Seattle is the game of the night, maybe the series of the weekend to start the second half following the MLB All-Star break. The Mariners holding on to just a 1-game lead in the American League West over the Houston Astros. Houston, since they were 7 games below 500 on June 18th, has won 17 of their last 23, despite a final weekend before the break series loss to the Texas Rangers. The M's struggling. They dropped 9 of their last 14 entering the break, but an ever so slight favorite with Luis Castillo on the bump tonight in the Northwest. Hunter Brown gets the start on the other side for the Stros. The total is 7. DRS, it's now a virtual pick'em. Who wins the series opener of this weekend set out in Seattle?
You might say 7 is a crazy number here. And also, take a look at these two teams. Let's break it down. Luis Castillo on the mound today, 114 batters he's faced over the past 30 days. Right-handed batters, absolutely dominating against them. But the lefty batters, they're getting the best of them. And also, taking a look at that Houston lineup over the past 30 days against right-handed pitching, it's on fire. Outside of Chas McCormick, who's due to bat 9th tonight with a 244 weighted on-base percentage, every single batter in that lineup has a 336 weighted on-base percentage or higher. That could help them out. Also, taking a look at the opposite side and saying, how does that Seattle Mariners offense go up against Hunter Brown, the starting pitcher for the Astros, as a right-hander? They've been absolutely brutal. Maybe the worst strikeout numbers I've seen. You're taking a look at every single batter in that lineup, Ben, that has at least a 28% or higher strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. And Hunter Brown's a pretty good pitcher, coming in with a K rate over the past 30 days of 23%, on the season, 25%. So I look at that 7 number and really like it. But if we are doing a pitching breakdown at this point, road starts for Hunter Brown, 5.70. Oh, my goodness, that's horrendous. His xFIP, though, Ben, 3.27. I mean, that ball's not getting in the air, and he's striking out a lot of guys. And we already know how hard it is typically for the Seattle Mariners to score runs, particularly in their own ballpark. Flip it over to the other side. Hunter Brown's got some pretty good numbers coming in overall. How about this? Last 60 days, an 83 xFIP minus and an ERA, Ben, of 2.36 and an xFIP of 3.41. I think both of these lineups will struggle against these pitchers. But if you're asking me which technically is just the better hitting side, it's by far Houston. Maybe you lean that way, but it's going to be a tough time tonight, for me at least, seeing these pitchers get knocked around in that ballpark. We're probably looking at a 3-2 type game, in my estimation.
We stay at the site of the All-Star Game and All-Star Week in all the festivities. Arlington, Texas, maybe for the other most compelling series this weekend. The Rangers host the Baltimore Orioles, a rematch of last October in the ALDS. Baltimore was the number 1 seed in the AL. The Rangers were the 6th seed. They swept the O's to get to the ALCS and then, of course, win a World Series. But Baltimore shoves out Corbin Burnes, who was used to the bump. He started the All-Star Game for the American League on Tuesday night at Globe Life Field. Baltimore, a road favorite, minus 124 against the Rangers. Texas entered the All-Star break victorious in 7 of its last 9. What do you like tonight in Arlington?
Yeah, and it's a shame too because sometimes you line this up. You know how excited you are for like Major League Baseball to return. Well, typically it is like opening day in a lot of ways because your starting pitchers are typically the aces on the mound right out of the gate, and they're extra rested. So when you say to yourself, "Okay, opening day baseball, it's so much fun. Why is nobody scoring?" Well, because the aces are on the mound and the batters here might be a little bit behind. Now, granted, the batters have been playing the whole season, but you still have that delay. But if we're looking at these pitching matchups today, Eovaldi and Burns, there's 27 pitchers ranked on the card today over the past 60 days, Ben, that have at least 20 innings pitched. Nathan Eovaldi is number 4. Corbin Burns is number 6. Eovaldi comes in with an xFIP minus number of 76, an ERA of 3.25, and an xFIP number of 3.36. That's really good. Corbin Burns just about matching him with an 81 xFIP minus and an ERA of 2.22 and an xFIP of 3.48. It takes 9 runs to beat you in this environment. Once again, I'm going to lean towards the pitcher here. I think it is more of a toss-up than that heavy favorite for Baltimore since we're coming out of the break and they're on the road, but also at the same time, I don't know where we're getting 9 runs from, to be honest.
The ace gets the start tonight in the Bronx. That's Garrett Cole for the New York Yankees. Minus 172. A hefty home money line favorite against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays an even 500. The Yankees struggling into the break, but still better baseball. Only a game behind Baltimore. What do you like tonight in the Bronx?
It's kind of funny because if you just look at the name itself, you're like, sure, we're going Garrett Cole all day long. But you take a look at his season-long numbers, which, again, aren't extensive, only 103 batters. It's a 228 ISO against him and a weighted on-base percentage of 371. Good hitting conditions in the Bronx tonight, 81 degrees, wind blowing out the left field. You might still, even with Garrett Cole on the mound, lean towards an over in this environment. But this by no means is a blowout win for the Yankees, as you might thought of just a year ago with these two on the mound.
Yeah, absolutely not. The Yankees did win their final weekend set against Baltimore to stop some of the bleeding. They trail the O's by only a game now in the American League East. More MLB breakdowns now. Two very compelling teams as we near the trade deadline in Major League Baseball on the first day of regular season action following the All-Star break. They face off this weekend in the 6th. It's the Blue Jays and the Detroit Tigers. Detroit entered the All-Star break playing really good baseball. Winners of 8 of their last 11. Not so much the case for Toronto, losing their final weekend set against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Jays a slight home favorite today, minus 118. The over-under 7.5. The Tigers 3 games below 500. The Blue Jays 8 games below 500 on this first day after the break. Donnie, both of these teams could be trading away pieces as we near the deadline in just about a week and a half. But for this time now, what do you expect out of this weekend series?
Yeah, they won a couple good starts out of Jack Flaherty talking about the Tigers. But having said that, let's remove Jack Flaherty from the situation here and just look at how Toronto has done against right-handed pitching over the past 30 days. First 3 batters, fantastic. Springer, Horwitz, and Guerrero. Everybody, ISO power numbers high, weighted on base percentages high. The rest of that lineup, a lot to be desired. Now let's bring in Jack Flaherty, who on the season has an ISO power number against him through 371 batters of a 170. Right about average, that's manageable. Weighted on base percentage at a 284. But let's take a look at some of the splits that go into your advantage now. Detroit is going to be on the road. Jack Flaherty, 51 1/3 innings pitched this season on the road. How about an ERA of 2.81 and an xFIP of 2.49? So you take a look at a Toronto lineup that hasn't been all that electric against right-handed pitching, going against one of the better right-handed pitchers in baseball analytically here. That doesn't match up all that well. So you look at on the other side, Bassett's not a phenomenal pitcher, but also that Detroit lineup that sometimes we laugh at so much. There's a couple guys in this lineup. Perez, Keith, Green, Kelly, McKinstry, and Javier Baez, who he does having a bad season, but has done decently against right-handed pitching over the past 30 days. I think I have a better lineup, which is crazy to say, with Detroit versus Toronto, and I have the better pitcher on the mound. Plus 100, I'll take that way.
Specific game breakdowns of 9 of the 15 on this full Friday slate. One that Donnie Rightside likes more than most that will more than likely be his best bet. Largest money line number in favor of one side today. It's the Royals against the White Sox. KC minus 205 at home in Kauffman against Chicago. The White Sox, the only team prior to the break around Major League Baseball that has failed to win 30 games. In fact, the only team with less than 33 wins, 27 for those White Sox. Highest total, as you would expect, at Coors Field for the series opener between the Giants and the Rockies this weekend. That's 10.5. A lot to get to here around this first Friday, back after the All-Star break in Major League Baseball. So before we say farewell, before we say goodbye, for the final time on this Friday, for the final time this week, for the final time with, we'll save that for another time. It's time for bye. We probably just confused a lot of people. Donnie Rightside's not going anywhere. There might be some schedule changes with the radio and the TV that we should detail for you next week. But Donnie will be here for a good majority of the early line each and every day. But for this weekend, DRS, for this Friday night slate in Major League Baseball, you told both Friezo and I that your best bet, your favorite game of the day, wasn't one of the 9 we had the game boards for. So what is it, and what is that best bet?
Cincinnati and Washington, so many games we take a look at today. It's like, hey, man, there's really good pitchers on the mound. They're going to be rested and ready. Maybe the under is the play. Not in this one. It's listed at 9. I'm going to go over because it's just a simple concept here. Frankie Montas is a terrible road pitcher. Hey, look at that, Ben. He's on the road. Patrick Corbin is a terrible home pitcher. Hey, Ben, Patrick Corbin's at home. You look at that lineup for the Nationals. Abrams, Wood, Winker, Yepes, and Garcia, along with Ruiz, all elevated weighted on base percentages. Flip it over to Cincinnati, and they look very good against a left-handed pitcher, particularly against Patrick Corbin. India, De La Cruz, Stevenson, Hines, Marte, and Espinal, all elevated ISO power numbers. We should be able to get to 10 runs in this game. Finally, a game we can sink our teeth into, Ben.
I like that. Let's see some runs. It's still summer. It's still late July. It's not like opening day in March when it's cool temperatures all around. I go to Miami. The Marlins hosting the Mets. Again, an interesting week and a half ahead for New York. Will they be buyers at the deadline? Will they be sellers? Will they stand pat? I think they should stand pat. They have the third and final wild card spot in the National League at this moment. Sean Manaea has been pretty good as of late for the Amazons. He's 6-3 this year with a 3.46 ERA. New York has won his last 4 starts. Short road favorites today against the worst team in the National League. Give me the Mets, minus 136 over Miami. He's Donnie. I'm Ben. We'll talk to you on Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, here on the early line on SportsGrid. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you Monday.